Me to do that.
There we go. See, it works when everyone's like, oh, no, hit record.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Palmer McIntyre. I am with the Great Trail State Coalition and very excited to bring to you today the building visitor itineraries based around your trails with our friends at Uplift Tourism here in North Carolina. We've got Carol Kline and Simon Jones speaking today. And Carol is the professor of and director of the Hospitality and Tourism Management Program at Appalachian State University. She's got more than 20 years experience working with rural communities across North Carolina and elsewhere. And Simon Jones is the founder and CEO of Naturescapes, and he also has more than 20 years of experience working with governments and businesses and nonprofits around the world with nature and cultural tourism. So we've got some experts in the room today and excited to bring you this program, and I'm going to turn it over to them.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, I'll kick things off and we're gonna talk for a little while, but if you have questions as we go through, feel free to unmute and just jump in, or feel free to also put them in the chat, and whichever of myself or Carol who's not talking can field those. So feel free to just jump in with any questions as we go, and then we'll also have a little bit of time at the end to talk through any questions you might have then as well. A number of you I know already know about Uplift, but some of you may not. So I wanted to give just a very quick overview of the program before we get into some of the nuts and bolts of itinerary building. Our program has been running for about 3 years, funded by the Economic Development Agency through the American Rescue Plan Act. It's a bit of a mouthful, but and through the Department of Commerce. So our broad goal as a program is essentially to provide a suite of services to and programs, as well as one-on-one mentoring to organizations and destinations developing and managing tourism in mainly rural parts of North Carolina. We, with the funding we've got, we were focused on the central and eastern part of the state initially. But most of our programming now is available to pretty much anyone that is interested around the state. The website and QR code are down there at the bottom. We'll also have that at the end if you missed it. And I just put this slide up because we do have a whole suite of different programming that we offer at different parts during the year. A couple that are coming up. We have a storytelling program. So once you get a visitor to your site, how to tell engaging and interactive stories. That program actually delivers at the end, once you go through it, a physical manual of the stories at the site that you'd like to highlight. So some resources there. We have a regenerative tourism program that just wrapped up on the online version, and we have one that will be running in the West, kicking off in August. We can that information's up on our website. And one of the programs we run is itinerary building. So we will be talking a little bit about that today in terms of the overview pieces, but we also have some resources and some training videos if you want to come back to them to do this yourself and get into itinerary building on your own. So that's just a little bit about Uplift as a program. And now we'll get into the main reason why you're here.
And thanks everyone for being here again. I put some links in the chat as Simon was naming off some of the programs that we are still running this year. So please check them out. Join us if you can. So, a basic itinerary, the basic concept is it's a series of stops strung together. And to go beyond that, we can talk about how long people are staying at each stop, how long the itinerary itself is. It could be anywhere from a half day to a multi-day itinerary. An itinerary could be self-guided. So I take an itinerary and I just go myself and follow the stops. And I get to think about how much time I want to put into each stop, or maybe I skip a stop. But an itinerary can also be led by a guide. It can be a money-making opportunity in terms of it could be someone's business, or it can be a combination of all of the above. Itinerary audiences might be individual visitors themselves, or it might be economic developer investors. It could be people who may want to relocate to your community. It could be media. So the audiences for itineraries really vary. We'll go into that a little bit more within the time we have. But the point I want to also say is that itineraries are going to be probably themed. You're going to be portraying a message about your community or about your region through an itinerary. So that's why thinking through each stop on an itinerary, it has to be intentional. It has to be deliberate. So this diagram, there's 3 different icons here. We've boiled down the essence of an itinerary to these 3 icons. One, it's a route. It's a walking route, it's a driving route. Either one, it's some combination. There is a timing component to it. As I mentioned, we would need to think through, when we're putting together itineraries, we need to think through how much time the average visitor might want to stay at each stop. Providing maybe some alternatives. So if this stop doesn't really appeal to me, maybe it's a very kid-focused stop, I might want an alternative. So thinking through the timing, the spacing, the geographical spacing, and how long it's going to take to get from one stop to another. So a second icon representing the time involved. As I mentioned, it could be a short itinerary. It could be a week-long itinerary. And then what is really important that is sometimes left out, I've left it out myself in designing itineraries, is putting in time to rest, putting in time to reflect. We get so excited about our communities, and we just want to put everything we can, as much as we can, into a day as possible. But our brains can't absorb things very well with rapid fire stimulation. So building in the time for a visitor or an investor to think through what they just experienced, what they just saw, what they just heard, what they just smelled, what they just tasted, and connect that with other memories that are inside of them already. Taking time to physically sit down and rest, taking time for biological breaks. So that third icon just represents the slowing down and making sure that we're building itineraries for humans to get the most out of them. We've got a couple different sample itineraries that we want to show you. This first one is a real itinerary. Well, they're both real itineraries, but this itinerary is from Granville County. And this itinerary was designed by the Destination Marketing Organization Director there, Angela Allen. And Angela used this itinerary when she was entertaining the staff from Visit NC. And so there were about 12 to 15 staff members from Visit NC that came to Granville, spent 2 days, 1 night, and got to look around and experience, got to become familiar with Granville on the ground. Now, it might sound weird for the state agency. Why aren't they already familiar? Well, obviously there's 100 counties, and it's not going to be as easy to know all of the different details about all of the different attractions and restaurants and the fun things to do in every county. And so from time to time, Visit NC or travel agencies or host groups or media or tour operators will want to use itineraries that communities have put together to familiarize themselves with what that community has to offer. And these are called FAM tours, short for familiarization tours. So this was an actual itinerary used by Angela to familiarize the Visit and See team about what's going on in Granville County now. I was fortunate enough to be able to join this tour, and she did such a great job putting together a sampler. This is a nice example of a sampler itinerary. And you'll notice that on one of the pages, I believe it's the third one, Visit Granville Rain Itinerary. In case it rained, she had something in mind. She's got this. This isn't her first itinerary. And so she has put into place alternatives for inclement weather. An itinerary might also have alternatives for seasonality. Maybe it's built around a particular downtown festival event, or maybe strawberry season. But if it's not strawberry season, the rest of this itinerary still fits. It still can be used. And so building in alternatives for different audiences and different uses of the itinerary is going to be key. Simon, you unmuted. Did you?
No, I was just saying, one of
You
the
want to tell me
points
what a good
covered-
job I'm doing?
Yes, very good. You covered the rainy day. I think that's those alternates are really important to have. And I think with trails, especially with something that's seasonal,
Yes.
you could, as you say, you could have strawberry picking for a month or however long that is, 6 weeks. But you can do a trail instead if you're if that's another option, or if one trail's one trail's only really good in a certain season, there might be another trail that folks can do pretty much year round. So those alternatives are great. And then also the one you just saw was a very simplified itinerary in terms of the content that was there. It was boom, boom, boom. These are the different things, what time, and that was it. But you can also get more detail.
Well, right. And the reason why that one was simplified is because it was guided. Angela was there and she was just letting people know, here's what's happening next. On a self-guided itinerary like the one you see here, this itinerary is meant to give people ideas. They're picking this up and they're looking at this in a magazine, or they're reading it on a web page, and they're looking for ideas on where to go in this part of the state. And so you'll see a little bit more information here. Kind of small print, but let me just tell you what's on there. You see the map, so you see beautiful images, right? We got to have images. This is a very image heavy day that we live in. You could also have QR codes that link to videos, and we'll talk a little bit more about that opportunity to utilize in a bit. But after the images, you want to give people an idea of like where they're going geographically. That's the map that's here. Notice that map isn't to scale. And so the map can be a cartoon map. It could be a very precise, drawn to scale map. But if someone's taking this on their own, they're probably not all going to take the same amount of time for each stop. So, but giving them an idea of what this might take to do this route is certainly a good idea. There's a lot of bullets on that third page that's partially covered. These are things just to set up expectations. Maybe you want to let people know to bring a good pair of hiking boots, or remind them to bring their reusable water bottle. So setting up expectations about where they're going to be, how they need to be dressed, the equipment needed. I'll never forget doing an itinerary building workshop in one of the communities that we work in, and we were asking people in the community what would people need to bring if they're coming on this itinerary, and somebody was like, money. So we want to remind them that there are opportunities to shop and buy things from the area, support local vendors and local artists and local eateries. Simon, what else is on this very small print?
You have a microscope, then you can see it. Well, I think just those descriptions, you want to have short descriptions of what, especially if people are picking these up without any context, of what they're going to get out of it. You know, people's holiday and vacation time is really valuable, and being able to succinctly describe the benefits they'll get from this, the value in terms of the experience, and then some of the just a little bit about those stops to give them a sense of what they'll experience, is really important without writing an essay about the whole destination.
Yeah, yeah, great. Let's go to the next slide because this is the good stuff. You all are here because you're representing trails and you are pro trail. And one of the fun online workshops, we've done these workshops where we build itineraries on the fly with people in the community. We've done that both in person and on Zoom. It can be done either way effectively. And one of the Zoom-based ones we did was around trails, building itineraries around trails. And on this slide, we just represent different types of trails. Because trails are alike, obviously, just like itineraries aren't all alike. There could be a very short walking experience around a downtown. We work with Main Street managers. We have the privilege of working with a lot of Main Street communities, and there can be walks or trails within the town confines, but also from the town there can be meanderings out into the rest of the community. I'm so glad to see so many people from Parks and Recreation departments on the call. This is your expertise in terms of how the trails in your local community connect the community. Certainly moving to longer experiences, paddle trails, you're looking at a commitment there of not just 30 to 45 minutes, most likely, because the paddle experience itself could be longer. But creating a 2 or 3 hour experience based off of both physical human and animal powered trails as well as the driving themed trails. So with this slide sort of encompasses all of that. And then a longer day experience, multi-day experience. That's where your creativity can come into play, not just in your county or in your town, but it could be a means to bridge to other communities as well and connect to the larger region.
All right. Now, so that's kind of the broader overview of itineraries. And you might be asking, okay, so what does this mean for me, and why would I do it, and how do I do it? Well, the first, relating to the why, and I'm going to geek out a little bit here on human psychology. So essentially, all of our brains work in 2 different ways, one or the other. System 2 thinking is often how we think travelers are going to make a decision. So we spend all this time analyzing all of the information that's out there, all these different sites and trails and restaurants and places to take my dog for a walk and all these other pieces. And based on all this information, we make a logical decision about where we're going to go and what we're going to do. And some people do that. They really take that time to analyze it all. But system 1 thinking is about shortcuts. It's about picking things that someone else has recommended. So I don't need to worry about all the other research that would be involved. Or top picks that people that you trust as a traveler recommend you do. So it's about shortcuts. It's about making a quick decision without all of that research, all of that time I got to spend figuring it out. And this is why itineraries are so important, because most of us are running around doing 103 different things. And if you can put information in front of that person that will travel on your, travel in one form or another on your trail and experience the more broader destination in one form or another, during their stay, if you can put information in front of them that packages that all together in a nice, succinct, understandable itinerary, you shortcut all of that research they've got to do, and they're far more likely to actually come and experience your destination. So, and it's also a way of pushing people to things that they might not otherwise find, because ultimately you all are the experts, and frankly travelers are the least qualified people out there to make these decisions because they've never been to your destination potentially before. So being able to package that all together in an itinerary based on your recommendations really helps the traveler shortcut all of that research they've got to do and get into actually organizing their trip and coming. So itineraries are a way of communicating that to potential visitors or to potential residents. Um, it's a way of packaging that all together in an easy way to understand. It's your suggestions based on your recommendations as experts about your destination. Obviously, our itineraries can be used as marketing tools. You know, they're a great way of presenting to anyone, media or a traveler, what your destination represents and what you have. And it's a great way of getting other partners you may have involved in that process. We'll talk a little bit later about how to run and put together, how to run an itinerary workshop yourselves and how to put together itineraries. So you can use this as a way of engaging some of those folks that might not normally be at the table, but you can come together and talk about what's special about our place. How would you recommend people come and travel and experience your destination? And through those conversations, one is you can build itineraries. The other is you build these connections and this network and this stronger collaboration between folks that suddenly realize that they're actually part of a bigger whole. And then also you can maximize that time. As Carol mentioned, it could be for visitors outside, you know, visitors coming into your destination. It could be for residents. It could be for new residents that are thinking about coming and want to know what there is to do in the region, or for investors that are looking to bring their business and want things for their employees to do, so that their employees like living in the place that you're bringing them to. The first thing we do when we're putting itineraries together is think about that theme, that broader story of what is this itinerary, what is the story that this itinerary tells to the visitor about your place. And these broadly tend to fit into four categories. A visitor interest, so they're interested in outdoor recreation, in getting out on the trail, in history or culture. Now one of those might be their primary interest, but they often also want to do other things. So if they're coming out on the trail and they're going to spend, 4 or 5 or 6 hours out on a trail, they may also be foodies. They want somewhere great to eat afterwards, or go and do some shopping downtown, or visit a cultural or historic site. So integrating those things into itineraries, even if there's a primary focus around trails or outdoor recreation or something like that, is a great way of mixing it all up. It might also be the type of travel. So I'm a family looking for an experience, or a group, or rock climbers, or very specific groups like that. It may also be a way of traveling, the cyclists or the hikers or the boat, the paddlers, etc. And lastly, it might be around a season. So it might be around a festival or event. So people are coming for the Pickle Festival in Mount Olive, but they can also go and do a hike the following day, and then you're keeping them in the region for a bit longer. So packaging things with things that will bring people that core, that anchor, and then you can give them some other things to do to keep them around. Some of these general themes, one of the sample itineraries we looked at a little earlier, and Carol talked about, was that sampler, a little bit of everything and what you can experience in the destination. Or it could be around some of these bigger categories like arts and culture, or history, or outdoor recreation and trails. But as you get into this and as you think through what those itineraries that you might want to put together are, it's also good to get down into some really specific ones. So if there's a trail that you really want to highlight that has a unique story, it could be a driving quilting trail, or a beer trail, or a wine trail, or those kind of things as well. Or it could be around the biodiversity of the the river that you're kayaking, or the place that you're hiking, or specific plants or other species that you can get and see on the trail. Those kind of things, and those unique, interesting and engaging points really make for some essentially they capture the reader's attention. You know, a cultural trail is great, an outdoor recreation trail is great, but if there's something that someone's like, "Ooh, that sounds good. Let me learn a little bit more about that," it'll help to capture their attention, and then they're more likely to read more. So think about some of those hooks that you can get people interested in your itinerary, and then also the media who get bombarded by these things all the time, the travel media especially, if there's a really unique hook, that helps to pull your itinerary and your destination up among the crowd to excite and really capture the interest of potential media that will come out and spread the word and talk about what you have to offer. So trying to, having the general ones is great, but having a little bit more specific and niche and interesting and engaging topics is also good as well. So we have that story, we have that theme that connects your sites and your attractions, and then in pretty much all itineraries there's one or two anchors, and that's the main reason that people are coming. That might be your trail up to the top of the mountain, or the paddling from here to here and the experience you're going to have between there. So those might be the anchors, but then you also have these other experiences that you can connect to them to give a deeper, richer experience. So it might be some great places to eat along the way or at the end of your hike. It might be a historic site or a cultural site. All these other pieces that come to create more of the reason why someone would come. So it kind of gives it a bit more oomph to say, yes, there's all these different things I'm going to experience in this day, and it's really worth my time to come out and do that. It's also good to think about the transition. So how are people getting to the trailhead? How are people getting between this site or another site? And especially with trails, you tend to naturally mix it up. So they're driving to site A, they might have a little bit of a time in the visitor center, then they're hiking and coming back around, and then they're going off and doing a downtown experience or something like that, or they're getting on a kayak and kayaking. So mixing up those transition points, but also thinking about how long it takes to do each of those pieces is really, really important. And then also the order. It might make more sense to do certain things in certain orders, either geographically or just thematically. It's nicer to get out and hike this area in the morning because it's not quite so hot, and then you can go and fool around in shops in downtown after that. Carol already mentioned the resting. It's really important to have times for people to contemplate what they've experienced and hang out and talk to their friends and family and just relax. And then lastly, if you can integrate local hosts, a tour guide, or someone that just tells really great stories that they can meet and have a coffee after the trail, that really deepens the overall experience. And you can also do more with itineraries if you have someone there that's talking about these interesting plants or wildlife or historic sites along the trail that people can engage with, and really it makes it more of a sticky experience. It sticks in their mind, so they tell their friends, they tell others about it, they can recall these stories that they've heard, and therefore will be your promotional agents to go and tell the story to others so that more come and experience your destination and the trails as well. So those are kind of the nuts and bolts to create that critical mass of things that create the actual kind of pieces of the itinerary themselves.
Yeah, that's sort of the body of the itinerary, the significant substance of it. And as we've mentioned before, you want to include images, you want to include some sort of map component. It doesn't have to be fancy or expensive. You literally could draw it as long as it's attractive and neat looking. some descriptions, short descriptions to help people make that decision about, yeah, I want to go to that farmer's market that is at the end, that's along that trail. Um, and information. If someone runs across this itinerary and they have questions, who should they call to ask? In addition to that, since we're talking about trail-based itineraries, um, probably like a QR code where not only can they ask questions of who to contact, but maybe a QR code that links to real-time information about conditions of trails, um, or a particular app that is suggested to look at in terms of the conditions for the trails. Having videos of a panoramic of a vista from a trail, or a view from a river coming around a bend, any of that would help the visitor to make that decision to book, to come and make that decision to convert the inquiry to an actual visit, whether that's a tourist or an investor who wants to come and look at the community.
Yeah, and some of the things for trails as well is, I mean, obviously how long roughly, like distance and also time
And
that might take, and
difficulty.
the level of difficulty. You know, is it a moderate? If it's is it a hard one? Is it a flat water? Is it ra grade 5 rapid? Those that kind of information would be is useful to put in there as well.
As well as like stations, if it's a for any of the trails, but if it's a paddle trail, how far apart are the put-ins and takeouts? If it's an equestrian trail, are there places along the way for stopping, or convenient places for stopping? And practical information about bathrooms and eateries nearby as well. So if you are thinking about, if you're like so jazzed now about itineraries and you're like, yes, I want 3 itineraries, and you want to build an itinerary yourself and run a workshop, we have some resources on the Uplift website. You can use this QR code to go to our website, or you can look at the last link that I dropped in the chat. Either way, it will get you to the same place where you will see a 30-minute video put together by Simon, where he is describing some of the things that we've just talked about now. Now, you might not want to watch that again, but others in your community, you might want them to watch it just to get them on the same page of what we're talking about here in terms of an itinerary and what an itinerary consists of before you jump into the workshop. We also have some sheets, some worksheets on the website that you're welcome to download. These would be worksheets that you use at an in-person itinerary building workshop. If what we don't have on the website, but we're happy to share with you, is a spreadsheet. It would be a Google sheet, in essence, that people can use in a Zoom room to build their itinerary on a spreadsheet, and then it would be later transferred to something more attractive and visitor friendly. And so, the first thing you have to decide is, are you going to conduct a workshop that's online or in person? Both have their advantages. In my opinion, the in-person one, there's so much more energy. And like Simon says, you're building that social capital. The online one, you might get more people to show up because it's convenient for them, or you have some of both. In either case, when people grumble to you that they're not on the itinerary, this is your opportunity to say, well, you didn't come to the meeting, and you can hold subsequent meetings. It's a rolling process. Itineraries are always going to need to be updated, build out more itineraries, different versions of the itinerary. And when you're actually running the workshop, there needs to be time set aside for people to think through, first of all, brainstorm about all the different places that might go on an itinerary, all the different themes, sites, that fall onto a theme, all of the different locations of around the trail that you may want to include. But then you're going to have to remind them to add in some eateries, and some, places to stop and get a beer afterwards. I know Tom Potter is not going to go on any itinerary unless it has a place to stop and get a beer. Oh, he's
Hey,
unmuting.
amen.
Yeah, amen. Hallelujah. And so, just thinking about those human centered and Tom centered activities. And then after the workshop, your work's not done once people have created their ideal itinerary, because you're going to need to go back and check and make sure that it's been captured correctly. And everybody who has been suggested to be on the itinerary wants to be on the itinerary. We need to check hours of operation. That's what I'm trying to get out. We need to have different eyes look at it to see if we've been realistic about how long it takes to be on a trail, or if we consider it an easy trail, but someone else might consider it moderate. So having lots of different eyes on it just to refine it. And then again, thinking through the pieces of what are the extras that you want on it, that you can easily connect with a link if it's on a website, or a QR code if it's on more of a physical flyer or brochure. So, and so then we need to think about, you've done all this work creating an itinerary. Now it's really fun to think about all of the opportunities that you can take your work and leverage it and get that return on investment. Now, you yourself, whether you're representing a destination marketing organization, a parks and recreation department, a statewide nonprofit, a land trust, you yourself can have itineraries online on your webpage, or offer it in your social media. You can have print materials and flyers. If you are, this is an opportunity to talk with your closest Main Street director and see if they might suggest ways to market your itinerary, your trails, based as within the downtown area. Sometimes local businesses, local eateries, especially if they're on the itinerary, would be willing to post flyers about this itinerary in their window or on their wall. And then certainly signage at trailheads. I keep saying QR code, QR code, QR code, but it really is a versatile tool that can be used to get the itinerary out. And we want to also maximize the capital, the social capital that we've created and that we've nurtured through building our itinerary. Everybody on the itinerary should also be vested in marketing the itinerary. They should be a part of that collaborative effort. And, again, thinking a little bit outside of our own world, maybe real estate agents would be very interested in one or more of your itineraries to show to potential relocatees, or to provide in gift baskets to newly minted community members. Economic developers certainly, I would think, would have some use of having some itineraries on, in their back pocket to show people who may be looking to move a company into the area. It provides a snapshot of some great amenities for the community, which is certainly how a lot of relocated companies make decisions, not just on the land and the infrastructure, but on the quality of life for the people that would also be making that move. And then familiarization tours, we bring it back to the familiarization tours, because once you have your itineraries and that really fun title, that marketing hook, that theme, you can use it in so many ways, not just for the media, the local media, travel media, not just for the destination marketing organization to market it out, but you can use it internally so that people from your community can use these itineraries to get to know other members of the community. You can host formal familiarization tours that are internal. We're doing that now within Uplift. We've had maybe 2 or 3 familiarization tours. We had one down in Bladen County where we visited 2 different parks. We visited a trailhead, and we visited a winery and a very interesting restaurant. And all the people on the familiarization tour were from the community, with the exception of the people from Uplift who were there. And they were just getting to know their own community. The reason why you would do that is so that they can market the community that much better. They can cross market. And if somebody asks them, what is there, we've got like an hour or 2 to kill this afternoon, what would you recommend? They've got an answer, and they don't send people outside of your area. So wrapping up here, just some final things to remember. These are things that we have already mentioned. Itineraries are for lots of different audiences. And we need to think about itineraries from lots of different perspectives. We need to think about it from like a planning or a catalyst type of perspective. What about the sites and the businesses involved? How are they going to benefit from itineraries? Maybe a host, having a guide, a person who is available to take part in part of the itinerary, like Simon mentioned, to create that sticky, memorable piece. And then local media, having local media, it's a great excuse to contact your local media and brag about the trail resources, and elected officials to brag about the trail resources that you have, and how the trail resources aren't standalone. They are part of the entire community. They're integrated as a resource in the community. And then just some final things not to forget: time to rest, time to reflect, time to use the bathroom, different alternatives, whether it's for weather or season or different events. Lenore, North Carolina, made an itinerary around the Blackberry Festival. That happens because you come to the festival, it's amazing, but you also want to do other things. And so why not make a sampler itinerary that people can do different things in the area, but also a Blackberry themed itinerary? Maybe they go out to visit farms. Maybe there's a workshop where they can learn how to make Blackberry pie or Blackberry bread. I'm getting hungry now. And then that kid versus adult only friendly alternatives. Sometimes we're going to be in the mood to just be around other adults. Sometimes we want that kid energy. And so having those alternatives in the same itinerary, just things to keep in mind as you're developing these. So at this point, we want to just open the floor to questions, comments, criticisms, probably jokes, anything you want to talk about.
That was so interesting. Thank you both. And just wearing my hat as the Great Trail State Coalition person, the FAM tours, what a great idea to engage your elected leaders, because we're always encouraging coalition members to invite elected leaders out on trails to see them in person. But if they can see how the trails connect to a bigger community network, that is even more valuable. So I think that's a tremendous idea. Thanks for sharing that. And I'm just going to share an itinerary that we did, and I'm wearing a different hat now, my Piedmont Land Conservancy Piedmont Legacy Trails hat. We published a paddle guide. I know we've got some paddle folks on the call today, but we did publish a Paddle the Piedmont guide for Piedmont Legacy Trails, and I'll put that link in the chat. And it was super interesting to think through. We did make some trip suggestions like family friendly or what's more adventurous, or categorizing things. And I think that was really helpful for us to think through what the different situations could be, in addition to all like the safety information and the basics. So I'm offering that up as just a model. And again, we will welcome feedback on that guide from any of you expert paddlers out there, but it's just an example.
Palmer, I'm looking at it now. It's beautiful. And you really didn't need to have us on here. You could have just showed them this and, we could have saved 45 minutes and had a longer lunch today. This is gorgeous. There's so much to love about this. Oh, and the reminders to like clean up, dispose of your trash, like be a good visitor. Yeah, this is great.
Well, you click on each river and that's where you can see the different itineraries. So yeah, I wanted to point out it was a new idea for us. And I just think it's something we hadn't thought before through. So
What to pack, planning a shuttle. Love this. Y'all do this. Do what Palmer just shared. This is amazing.
Yeah, that's a really good point on how to clean up after yourself and leave no trace kind of principles. Like that's a great way of kind of pretty much baking it in without having to be too upfront about that. It's like you're going to have this great experience. Here's everything you can do, and remember this while you're at it. So it helps to instill that just as a default rather than as something else they need to think about.
David McRae with Commerce has just dropped in the chat another great resource showing. Yes, I see. And yes. So it's routes. I'm trying to see if this is David, cycling routes, certainly.
Yes.
And there's other information about like the Surrey County Wine Trail. It connects to other things in the region, the greater region.
Yeah, I don't have any affiliation with them, but I've always looked at this and used it as an example of it's kind of the incorporating itinerary plus, the map component for this activity specific, biking in this case. But yeah, they do highlight attractions, pit stops, provisions, restaurants, etc. And the Google Maps feature they use to make the route is free to use. Anyone can do it. It's pretty user friendly and allows you to highlight. Again, they've got medical and you can change the icons or restaurants or restrooms, etc. I just always thought it's a pretty good resource to promote biking in Surrey County.
Yeah, and it has the accommodations linked to it as well, which is going to get the attention of folks who count on that occupancy tax to perpetuate the momentum of visitors coming into the community. Thank you.
Well, if anyone has itineraries that we can communicate out on Great Trail State Coalition social or, just ideas you want to share, that's, part of our mission with the coalition is to promote and excite people about trails in North Carolina, all kinds of trails. Go ahead, Ward.
Hi, Ward.
Hey, Carol, how are you? Long time no see. We're also with the Yadkin River State Trail, Yadkin River Keeper. We're part of the Yadkin River Heritage Corridor group. And we're talking about putting together some itineraries. And I said, oh, that'll be easy. We'll just put a couple of river trips and then we can combine it with some biking trips. People like to go, and then there's a whole bunch of Frisbee golf in the neighborhood. And oh, wait, there's this and there's this. And quickly I became overwhelmed. And I'm trying to now get my head around it and break it into chunks that can easily be presented. Is there, for a region as big as this with wine tours and everything else in there, is there a way that you can kind of make it digestible?
Yes. Yeah, the experience you're describing is a common experience. We live in an amazing state and there's so many great things that we want to include. And that visitors might like this or they might like that. The advice, for lack of a better word, that I would say is start one at a time. Just focus on, what's your first itinerary going to be in terms of length of time? Is it going to be a day or a multi-day? And then what's your theme going to be? If it's going to be just trails and all trails, great, but you're going to need to obviously include in eateries or scenic vistas, maybe throw in a local museum. But deciding how long you want your first itinerary to be, I would suggest a day, because you could add on several day ones to make a multi-day. And then think about the theme and create one, and then do the same thing, create a second, and using other people involved, so that it's not, I know I get in sort of a rut, and having other people weigh in and create their own itineraries, then you've got multiple perspectives. If you had like a team of 5 people to help you, does that help?
Yeah, it does. And because one of the things I was thinking about is, breaking them up into, like, this one is 2 hours long, and those are all coded in yellow. So you can do a 2 hour in the morning and a 2 hour in the afternoon, and you can mix and match and do all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But I was like, even that's still a little overwhelming, and it doesn't create the narrative that you guys were talking about earlier.
Yeah, you need that arc of
Yeah.
arc of the story of the 2 hours or of the day. Um, and and like, don't even think about marketing it right now. Don't even think of, like, really just sort of old school, sketch it out on a sheet of paper and say, this is an itinerary, and old school sketch out a second itinerary. Um, I don't think I'm describing it very well, but trying not to jump to the end and just really sort of taking it very low tech as you go.
I
Hey,
got
there
it.
you are. Hey, Ward.
And hey, hi. The only thing so yeah, Carol mentioned thinking about the theme and thinking about how long each of those, and kind of picking where you want to start. Um, yeah, as you mentioned, you might have a lot there already, even within those categories. So taking a step back, and as a group, as if there's like 4 or 5 of you, that helps as well, because there's different perspectives. But taking that step back and thinking about, okay, if I'm who's the person that's going to use this, and where might they come to that, where are they at when they're coming to this, might be useful, more probably from a prioritization perspective than more just like, okay, let's start with this, because this portion of the users are going to come and they're going to be thinking about, what can I do in the morning around just getting out on my bike or getting out for a hike. So and they're mainly families. Okay, great, so let's
Yeah.
focus on those and then kind of go from there. But yeah, maybe
Yeah,
dig
but even like sketching out those 5 one-day itineraries and then layering also, like, I love what Simon's saying, like starting with the visitor in mind and thinking about, is this a family with small kids, or is this, a 58-year-old Carol who's kind of out of shape, like thinking about who these people are. Or you can create the itineraries and then layer, and then like look at it through the view of the family, or the, old out of shape person. But either way, like keeping the visitor's perspective in mind is a very important piece. I love that, Simon.
Thank you.
Well, it's
any other questions.
Yeah, are there any more questions? I know we're kind of getting to the top of the hour here, but this has been such an informative session. Thank you for sharing. And we will have it in our library. So anyone, you can share it with others that you work with. And Ward, yeah, I hope you can get a team together to pull that off. I think Explore Elkin will be such a great partner for you in that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and we work in Surrey County, so, don't hesitate, Ward, to drop us a line.
All right, well, thanks everyone. Have a great rest of your week, and appreciate you being here.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.